Hey, what's up? I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about vocal compression and how much should you be compressing your vocals. So we're going to be looking at a couple different approaches that you could use for vocal compression. But before we do that, I want to let you know I have a free checklist available with this video. It's the first link in the description. You can go ahead and pick up the ultimate mixing checklist for better, faster mixes. Okay, with that said, let's dive straight into the content of compression for vocals. There's actually quite a few different approaches to compressing vocals, and I'll tell you my approach and also what I see other people doing inside of their vocals. I've set up 4 different styles of compression for the vocal. I shouldn't say styles. Styles, they're all using a normalization or thickness type compression. So I have a very fast attack and fast release. And so this is just basically evening out the vocal or capturing those transients at the very beginning to make our vocal a little less punchy and a little bit thicker. So that's really the style of compression we're using. But I have one compressor that's getting about 3 decibels of gain reduction. The next compressor is getting about 5 to 10-ish in between that range, maybe 6 or 7. And then this last compressor is really squishing the vocal, and we're getting a little bit more than 10 decibels of gain reduction. There's just a different style in terms of how the vocal is going to sound with these varied amounts of compression. And you will probably be tempted to go more extreme, especially if you're newer to mixing, because you want to be able to hear that compression working, and you want to hear that compression really squishing that vocal, because that's what you hear on the radio. However, the one thing to keep in mind is this is not the end of compression for the vocal. Generically, the vocal is one of the loudest elements of the mix. And so when you go to actually master your track, the vocal is the first thing that gets pushed down, outside of maybe the kick and the snare, with compression in the master. So if you overcompress your vocal here, it's going to be extremely overcompressed once we finally get to the mastering stage and compress even more. So that's the one thing that I always fight against, is over compressing my vocal inside of my mixes. Because of that reason, is we're adding even more compression later in the mix, and I know that, so why would I want to over compress now inside of just the vocal chain itself? Definitely something to watch out for. However, some people just really love that over compressed vocal sound, and if that is what you want to do, then by all means go for it. And I hear a lot of vocals that way. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're listening to the actual radio is also even compressed more than just the master of a song, so just to keep that in mind as well. Okay, with that said, let's actually listen to the differences of these various types of compression. Again, I'm going to play it with no compression, moderate compression with about 3 decibels of gain reduction, about 6 to 7 decibels of gain reduction, and then over 10 decibels of gain reduction, okay? So we're going to start with no compression. All right, so there you have it. Those are kind of the various stages of compression that you could potentially use. I generically opt for the least amount of compression on your vocal. Another note is that if I was going to go for maybe a more extreme compression like this middle one, I would actually stage it, and so I would have at least 2 compressors in serial to try to get that amount of gain reduction, because when one compressor works that hard, it does add a lot of distortion to the actual track itself. So you probably could hear that, although sometimes that's really the character that you want. So again, this is really subjective, especially when it comes to vocal compression and vocals itself, because I do hear a lot of people just crushing their vocals with a compressor, and that's the vibe that they want. So still go for the least amount of compression I need in order for the vocal to sound natural and in place inside of the mix. Therefore, I know that I'm not going to be mastering it and then regretting how much compression I added to the vocal itself. Another way that you can add some nice compression to the vocal without making it too obvious is using some saturation, but that is beyond the scope of this video. So anyway, I hope this is helpful in determining exactly how much compression you actually want in your vocal. Again, it's subjective. Use your own ears on your mix and whatever genre that you are working in to establish how much compression you should have on your vocal itself. Feel free to use references, but always keep in mind there was more compression done on the master, and so do a little bit less than your actual reference that you're using. All right, I hope this was helpful. If it was, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to help you get more professional mixes.